They laughed at him. They rolled their eyes. They whispered, "Who even let this kid in here?" He didn't look rich. He didn't look powerful. He didn't even look like he belonged. But then, bam! He walked out holding the biggest Powerball jackpot in history. 2.04 billion. With a B. Yeah, life's funny like that. Sometimes the joke isn't on the underdog, it's on the ones who laugh too soon. Because the real punchline isn't the laughter. It's the jackpot. They told him to leave the room. Simple. Cold. No hesitation. No second thought. Just that sharp, casual dismissal that hits harder than a slap, but quieter. And if you've ever been on the receiving end, you know what I mean. It's not just about the words, it's about the tone. That you don't belong here energy that drips off every syllable. And why? Why was he told to leave? Not because he'd done anything wrong. Not because he was loud, or rude, or out of line. No. It was because people judged his appearance before they judged his worth. Classic move. They looked him up and down and made a snap decision. Not one based on fact, not one based on truth, just one based on prejudice disguised as instinct. His skin, his clothes, his vibe, it didn't fit the curated picture they had in their heads of who should belong in that room. And instead of questioning their narrow little worldview, they questioned him. But here's the delicious irony, little did they know, this so-called outsider wasn't just another face in the crowd. He wasn't a nobody wandering into a space he didn't deserve. He was holding destiny in his pocket. And not the kind of destiny you write in your journal or whisper into the mirror at night. No, we're talking lottery destiny. Powerball destiny. The biggest jackpot in history kind of destiny. Billions. With a B. Pause and picture that for a second. He's standing there, being told to get out, while in his pocket is a ticket that could buy every chandelier hanging in that room, the building itself, the street it's on, and still leave him with enough to buy the silence of every single person laughing at him. They saw an outsider. Destiny saw an owner. And that's not just ironic, that's poetic. Now here's the funny thing about dismissal, it always feels final in the moment. Someone waves you off, mocks you, tells you, you don't belong, and boom, you're branded. The door slams. The air shifts. Everyone else pretends not to notice, but they do. They always do. And the sting settles in your chest. That's the weight of being dismissed, it convinces you, even if just for a second, that maybe they're right. But life? Oh, life's got a wicked sense of humor. The same people who push you out of the room are often the ones later begging to be let into your room. The same mouths that spit, "You don't belong," are the ones suddenly calling you friend, family, even inspiration once fortune flips the script. Isn't that wild? Yesterday, you were invisible. Today, you're a VIP. And nothing about you changed, except the number of zeros attached to your story. And that's what makes this scene so satisfying. Because while they were busy dismissing him, laughing at him, writing him off, he was holding the ace card the whole time. That Powerball ticket was destiny's mic drop. The universe doesn't do polite irony, it does loud irony. The kind that shuts a room up so fast you can hear the sound of egos deflating. Think about it, they judged him on appearance, but appearance can't cash checks. They dismissed him as worthless, but worth isn't measured in stares, it's measured in impact. They told him he didn't belong, but belonging isn't theirs to hand out, it's his to claim. And that's the problem with dismissal, it's never about the truth of who someone is. It's about the limits of who others are able to see. And here's the universal kicker, you don't need a Powerball ticket to relate to this. Everyone's been dismissed. Maybe you've been overlooked at work, underestimated in class, ignored in social circles, laughed at for dreaming too big. That sting? That silence? That's the same energy he felt in that room. But here's the lesson, dismissal is never the ending. It's just the setup. It's the tension before the reveal. Because what's hidden today, the hustle, the grind, the resilience, will be the headline tomorrow. And when it comes out, oh, it comes loud. It comes with receipts. And the same people who thought you were nothing will suddenly act like they always believed in you. That's how dismissal ages. Like milk, not wine. Sour, fast, embarrassing. So yes, they told him to leave the room. But destiny had other plans. And when destiny's in your pocket, you don't just walk back into the room, you own the room. And in the silence that follows, that silence is golden. But let's zoom out, because this story ain't just about a winning ticket. Oh no. It's a remix of history. Black folks being told to leave the room is nothing new. That script is older than the wallpaper on your grandma's dining room wall. It's been played in different settings, different centuries, different tones, but the melody? Always the same. From lunch counters to classrooms to boardrooms, the message has echoed, you don't belong here. Let's rewind for a second. Think about the lunch counter sit-ins of the 1960s. Students, young, brave, unshaken, sat down where society said they couldn't. They ordered coffee, and instead of sugar and cream, they got fists and hatred. Leave the room, they were told. But they didn't. They stayed. And by staying, they flipped the script, turning a seat at a counter into a seat in history. Fast forward a bit, classrooms. Remember how desegregation wasn't just a legal fight, it was a lived one? Kids with backpacks and hope walked into schools where the chalkboards were cleaner than the hearts of the folks glaring at them. Leave the room, the stairs said. But they didn't. They learned. They excelled. They graduated. And in doing so, they rewrote what belonging looked like. Now let's bring it into the boardroom. Black professionals, brilliant minds, walking into corporate spaces where their ideas were treated like background noise. The unspoken message, stay quiet. Don't shake the table. Don't act like you belong. But here's the thing, every table they tried to silence us at eventually got flipped into opportunity. Ideas once ignored became billion-dollar industries. Voices once silenced became cultural megaphones. You can't tell someone to leave when they're the reason the whole room is profitable. See, the dismissal of black folks is a recurring theme. But here's the twist, and this is the part the dismissers never learn. Every time we're told to get out, we don't just stay. We build. We innovate. We dominate. We flip the rejection into redirection. We don't just hold space, we create it. We don't just knock on the door, we own the building. And that's what makes this Powerball story so rich. Because it's not just a man being told to leave a room. It's history on replay. It's the latest remix of an old track. But this time, instead of staying in the room to prove a point, he walked out, cashed his ticket, and came back not with a seat at the table, but with the whole table. Matter of fact, he could buy every chair, the chandelier, and still have spare change to fund scholarships for everyone else's grandkids. The beauty of this story is how familiar it feels. You can place it anywhere in history and the rhythm matches. Slave ships told our ancestors, you have no place in humanity. Plantations told them, you have no place in freedom. Jim Crow told us, you have no place in equality. And still, here we are, building, leading, winning, creating. The melody is constant, unwelcome. The remix? Unstoppable. And here's the funny part, when the flip happens, when the dismissed become the dominant, people love to rewrite history. Suddenly, they always believed in you. Suddenly, they always supported you. That teacher who doubted your intelligence will tell their friends you were their star student. That boss who ignored your ideas will tell LinkedIn they were your mentor. That neighbor who never spoke to you will wave like your best friends once you're driving something shinier than their imagination. Funny how unwelcome turns into we've always loved you once success shows up. But let's keep it real, being unwelcome hurts. It chips at your spirit. It makes you second-guess your value. And yet, here's the magic, it also builds resilience. Because once you've been told leave 100 times and still found ways to stay, to rise, to win, you become unstoppable. Every no becomes fuel. Every dismissal becomes proof. Every exclusion becomes motivation. And in this man's case, the fuel was cosmic. They told him to leave the room, but he didn't just stay, he cashed in. Literally. He walked out of that space not defeated, not embarrassed, but holding the largest Powerball jackpot in history. That's not just poetic justice, that's economic thunder. That's history saying, we've seen this movie before, and the ending never changes. So the next time someone tells you to leave the room, remember this, you don't need their permission to exist. You don't need their invitation to matter. And you certainly don't need their approval to win. Because belonging isn't handed out, it's claimed. And when you claim it, when you flip the script, you don't just walk back into the room. You own the entire building. And speaking of cashing in, let's talk numbers, because this jackpot wasn't your grandma's bingo prize. This wasn't $1 million. Not $10 million. Forget that. That's couch cushion change compared to this. We're talking billions with a capital B. The kind of number so big your calculator doesn't even display it right, it just flashes, shrugs, and says, bro, I can't even. And that's the magic of this story, it wasn't just a win, it was the win. The single biggest Powerball jackpot in history. The jackpot to end all jackpots. The jackpot that makes every scratch-off ticket at the gas station look like kindergarten playtime. Now, let's get some perspective here. $1 million? Nice. A life changer. Pay off your debt, buy a decent car, maybe flex with some Gucci you can't really walk in. 10 million? Now we're talking. That's multiple houses, early retirement, yacht weekends if you play it right. But billions? Billions are different. Billions are generational wealth. That's change your entire family tree money. That's money that doesn't just buy a house, it buys land, builds an empire, funds legacies. See, when you're holding billions, you're not just a lottery winner, you're a walking economic ecosystem. Banks suddenly want to know your name. Politicians suddenly care about your opinions. Cousins you didn't even know existed start calling, like, "Hey fam, remember me? We used to share crayons in kindergarten." Yeah, sure we did. Sit down, Reggie. And here's what makes it even juicier. This was the exact kind of money that makes haters choke on their laughter. You ever notice how people's laughter changes when they realize you've leveled up beyond their imagination? Before, it's loud, obnoxious, dismissive, like a hyena pack circling prey. But after? It turns into nervous chuckles, throat clears, and awkward silences. The kind of laugh where you can practically hear them calculating, wait, how much can I borrow without looking desperate? But let's talk about what billions really mean in practical terms. Because numbers this big? They're hard to wrap your head around. So let's break it down. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. So if you started counting the jackpot out, $1 per second, you'd be counting for decades before you finished. By the time you're done, your kids would be grown and probably asking for their share. With billions, you could literally buy a private island, build your own airport on it, and still have enough left over to hire Beyoncé for your birthday, twice. You could pay off every single student loan for thousands of struggling graduates. Or, if you're feeling petty, you could buy your old high school and turn the principal's office into a spa. You could walk into the room where they once told you to leave, slap the deed to the building on the table, and say, actually, y'all leave. That's billion-dollar energy. And here's the part nobody tells you about jackpots: they don't just change your life, they change the gravitational pull around you. People orbit you differently. Every no you used to hear magically turns into absolutely, sir. Suddenly, the same people who doubted you are sending holiday cards, asking for investments, or pitching amazing business ideas that suspiciously look like pyramid schemes with extra steps. Now, here's the deeper layer. Because yes, the money is ridiculous. But what it represents is bigger. Billions represent freedom, the kind most people will never experience. Freedom from bills. Freedom from bosses. Freedom from rooms where you're told you don't belong. Because with that much wealth, you don't wait for a seat at the table. You buy the table. Heck, you buy the building the table is in. And if you're feeling extra spicy, you bulldoze the table and build a throne instead. See, this is why people dream about the lottery. It's not just about money, it's about transformation. About flipping from overlooked to untouchable, from dismissed to dominant. It's the ultimate reversal of roles. And when you add in the fact that this win went to someone who was literally being told to leave the room, that's cosmic storytelling at its finest. That's the universe setting up the joke and then dropping the punchline. Because here's the truth: billions don't just buy things, they amplify truths. If you were underestimated before, billions make people overestimate you now. If you were ignored before, billions make you unforgettable. And if you were laughed at before, billions make that laughter turn into silence so fast it feels like someone hit mute on reality. So no, this wasn't your grandma's bingo prize. This wasn't a turkey giveaway at the church raffle. This was the Powerball jackpot, the biggest in history. A win so massive it didn't just change a bank account, it changed the entire narrative. From outsider to overlord. From dismissed to destiny. From leave the room to I own the room. And that's the kind of scale that makes even destiny itself look impressed. But here's the part that hits harder than the jackpot itself: what happens when money collides with mockery? They laughed at him. Laughed. Like he was some kind of living joke walking into a serious room. But you ever notice something about mockery? It ages like milk, not wine. At first, it's loud and fresh, like everybody's in on the joke. But give it some time, give it some truth, and suddenly, that laughter curdles. It sours. It stinks up the whole room. And that's exactly what happened here. One moment, he's the punchline. The outsider. The guy they thought had no business being in the room. And in the next moment, he owns the entire comedy club. Because when life serves you disrespect, sometimes the comeback isn't words, it's receipts. Receipts don't argue. Receipts don't defend themselves. Receipts just sit there like, facts. Try me. And is receipt the single biggest Powerball jackpot in history? A receipt so long it didn't just print out, it rolled down the block like a CVS slip. Here's the thing about mockery, it's cheap. Anybody can do it. Mockery doesn't take skill. You don't need talent to laugh at somebody. You don't need intelligence to dismiss somebody. All it takes is arrogance and a fragile ego. That's why mockery feels good to the mocker, because it costs them nothing in the moment. But when reality claps back, suddenly, mockery has interest rates higher than student loans. And this man? He cashed an interest check in gold bars. Let's zoom in on the dynamic here. They told him to leave the room. Translation, you don't belong. That phrase is basically the national anthem of disrespect. It's been sung at black people for centuries, on plantations, in schools, in offices, even on stages. And the irony? Every time we get told to leave, history proves we're the very reason the room matters in the first place. Without us, the room is dull, empty, and flavorless. With us, the room becomes history. So when he walked back into that same space holding billions, that was bigger than a clapback. That was poetic justice with a drumline. It was Shakespeare meets the lottery. Because now, every single laugh aimed at him became a setup, and he delivered the punchline they never saw coming. And don't you love how quickly laughter turns when money enters the chat? Before the win, haha, look at him, he doesn't belong here. After the win, so. My man, we were just joking, right? Right? You know I always had your back. Nah. Save it. Keep that same energy you had when you thought he was nothing. But here's the real kicker, it's not just about the money. It's about the symbolism. Mockery is a way of shrinking someone, making them small enough to ignore. Winning, however, expands someone. It makes them too big to overlook. And in his case, the win was so massive it flipped the script entirely. He went from invisible to undeniable. From the guy they dismissed to the man they couldn't stop whispering about. Think about this, when you're mocked, people try to write your story for you. They reduce you to a stereotype, a punchline, a side character in their narrative. But when you win at this scale, you seize the pen back. You don't just rewrite your chapter, you rewrite the whole book. And suddenly, the mockers? They're the footnotes. This is why mockery meets reality is one of the most powerful transformations you'll ever see. Because mockery can only survive as long as it's unchallenged. The moment you put results on the table, receipts, proof, undeniable success, mockery collapses. It implodes on itself. The laughers become the laughed at. And let's be real, in a society that constantly undervalues black people, that flip is especially delicious. Because it's not just about one man winning the lottery. It's about every room where someone has ever been told, you don't belong. Every sneer. Every chuckle. Every dismissal. His win wasn't just money, it was a metaphor. It was every ignored resume, every overlooked idea, every silenced voice suddenly cashing out. So yes, they laughed. And yes, it stung in the moment. But when reality walked in wearing billion-dollar shoes, that laughter didn't just stop, it choked. It gagged. It died in the throat of every mocker who thought they had the final say. And the beauty? He never had to clap back with words. He didn't need to deliver a speech or a slick comeback. His very existence as the jackpot winner was the comeback. The receipts were louder than any argument, sharper than any insult, and more permanent than any memory. Because here's the lesson, mockery is temporary, but receipts? Receipts are forever. And receipts matter, because money isn't just paper, it's power. Which brings us to the bigger lesson. That ticket wasn't just a win, it was a symbol. A big, bold, universe-signed and sealed symbol. Because let's be honest, money comes and goes. We've all seen broke rappers who once had gold-plated bathtubs. But symbols? Those last forever. And that Powerball ticket? It was bigger than just a payday. It was a statement. See, society has this sneaky little trick. It says, you, over there, wait in the back of the line. Be quiet. Take what you're given and don't ask for more. And for centuries, black people have been shoved to that back line, whether it's schools, jobs, buses, housing, or even the so-called American dream. Always told to wait. Always told, not you. Not now. Maybe later. But destiny? Destiny doesn't care about where society tries to seat you. Destiny loves flipping seating charts. Destiny has a habit of snatching the kid sitting outside the room and putting him in the spotlight. And that's what this ticket did. It moved him from outsider to center stage in one pull of the numbers. And here's the part that really gets me: people think the loudest sound in a room is laughter. Wrong. The loudest sound is silence. You ever notice how quiet people get when reality checks them? When truth shows up, people don't know what to say. They choke on their own judgment. That's what happened when he revealed that winning ticket. The same folks who told him to get out suddenly had their jaws locked tighter than a safe. It wasn't just about billions, it was about that hush. That collective silence that says, "Oh, we miscalculated." Because respect? Sometimes it doesn't come from debates or arguments. Sometimes it comes from that one undeniable moment that no one can spin, no one can dismiss. That was the power of that ticket. But here's the twist: this isn't about shutting people up. Nah, silence is just the appetizer. The real question is, what do you do after the hush? Because money can open doors, but character decides what happens when you walk through them. History's full of examples. You've got folks who win big, lottery, fame, success, and lose it all because they thought the symbol was the substance. But the real power isn't the paper. It's the platform. That ticket was more than cash, it was a microphone. It said, "Your move. What are you gonna say now? What are you gonna show the world now that you've got their attention?" And let's not miss the symbolism here for the culture. For centuries, wealth has been weaponized as proof of worthiness. The rich get respect, the poor get ignored. And black folks, especially, have been shut out of that wealth game by design: redlining, wage gaps, underfunded schools, blocked opportunities. So when a black man holds up the biggest jackpot in history, it's not just personal, it's generational. It's cultural. It's symbolic. It says, we belong at every table, whether you like it or not. Think about how many rooms in history went quiet when a black person broke through. Jackie Robinson stepping onto the baseball field. Barack Obama taking the oath of office. Beyoncé dropping an album at midnight and breaking the internet. Every time, the silence was deafening, because it wasn't just about talent or luck. It was about undeniable proof that the back of the line was never where we belonged. And that's why this story hits harder than a jackpot. Because it reminds us that power doesn't always show up dressed in gold chains and designer suits. Sometimes it shows up on a little slip of paper, held by someone you underestimated. That's the kind of plot twist money can't buy, only destiny can write. But let's be clear, the symbol only matters if you understand it. If you see it as more than cash. Because here's the truth: money disappears. Taxes, spending, bad investments, fake friends, it can all go. But the symbol of what that win represents? That can outlive the money by centuries. That ticket shouted louder than any insult thrown at him. It shouted louder than the laughter. It shouted louder than every voice that ever said, "You don't belong here." And the best part? He didn't even have to scream it. He just held it up. Proof. Receipts. Power. So when the room went quiet, it wasn't defeat, it was revelation. That silence was the sound of history being corrected. And what do you do when history corrects itself? You don't just bask in it. You move. You build. You flip the symbol into substance. Because the real flex isn't buying a mansion, it's rewriting the story so that nobody after you gets told to leave the room ever again. That's what makes this more than a lottery story. It's a cultural echo. A reminder that symbols matter. That one moment can flip centuries of doubt. And that sometimes, the ticket in your pocket isn't just a win for you, it's a win for everyone who's ever been underestimated. But wait, it's not just about shutting people up. It's about what you do next. Because money is like a microphone, it amplifies who you already are. That's the thing nobody tells you. Money doesn't magically turn you into a better person, it just turns up the volume on what's already inside. If you were generous when you were broke, you'll probably be out here building schools and feeding communities when you get paid. But if you were selfish, mean, or petty? Oh, money just makes you louder with it. You'll be selfish on a bigger stage, with shinier lights, and probably with a gold chain that says "Look at me." And that's why this moment matters. The real flex isn't just cashing the check, it's cashing in on change. It's asking, now that you've got billions, what story are you gonna write? Will you build? Will you give? Or will you blow it all on a gold-plated toilet? But seriously, this is where the story gets interesting. Because a jackpot this size isn't just about buying things. Anybody can buy things. Give a toddler a credit card and they'll buy the whole candy aisle. But real vision? That's rare. And history shows us, when black folks get a sudden seat at the table, the world watches closer. Every move is judged twice, once for what you do, and once for what you represent. Now, let's not sugarcoat it, money has always been a tricky subject in our communities. For centuries, black people were locked out of wealth on purpose. Denied land, denied loans, denied equal pay. Wealth was designed like a private club, and the sign at the door said, "Not for you." So when one of us breaks through and suddenly holds billions, it's not just a win, it's pressure. Because now the question becomes, will you flip this blessing into something bigger than yourself? Look at history. You've got folks like Madam C.J. Walker, who built a haircare empire and used her money to lift up other black women. Or LeBron James, who didn't just cash his NBA checks, he built schools for kids who needed a shot at life. These are examples of turning wealth into a weapon of change, not just a shopping spree. And then, of course, you've got the cautionary tales. Lottery winners who went broke, athletes who blew fortunes, celebrities who spent millions on cars they couldn't even drive. That's the difference between seeing money as a symbol of freedom versus seeing it as an endless party. Spoiler, the party ends quick. So, back to our jackpot hero. This is his what now moment. He's standing on a cliff with two roads in front of him. One road leads to the flashy life, mansions, cars, entourages, clout. And hey, that's fun for a while. But the other road? That's the one where he becomes more than a name in a news headline. That's where he builds something that lasts. Where he takes the laughter, the mockery, the dismissal, and flips it into opportunity not just for himself, but for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. Because think about it, what's more powerful? A billionaire with 20 cars? Or a billionaire who builds 20 schools? What's louder? A gold chain around your neck? Or an entire community saying, because of you, we had a chance? This is why money is dangerous if you don't know its real power. It's not the cash itself, it's the choices it gives you. It's the freedom to either repeat the old script or write a new one. And history is watching to see what script he chooses. And here's the kicker, this what now moment isn't just his. It's ours, too. Because most of us might never touch Powerball money, but we all get smaller versions of this same test. You get a promotion, a bonus, a tax refund, what do you do with it? Do you blow it all on sneakers and trips, or do you invest, build, and create something lasting? Money at any level is a test. And it's a test that tells the truth about who you are faster than anything else. So yeah, laugh at the gold-plated toilet joke. But behind the laugh is a serious point, wealth is responsibility. And in a world where black folks have fought tooth and nail just to be seen, every win carries the weight of a legacy. Every win is a chance to push the culture forward. And that's why this jackpot isn't just about dollars. It's about destiny. It's about how you take something the world said you couldn't have, and flip it into proof that not only do you belong, you're building something that makes it impossible to ever question your belonging again. So the question is simple, but it's heavy, when life finally hands you the microphone, what song are you gonna sing? Because silence is one kind of power, but the real power is deciding what comes after the silence. Now, let's get real about why this moment matters way beyond one jackpot. This story is bigger than lottery numbers. Way bigger. On the surface, it's just a man holding a winning ticket. But underneath? It's a reflection of centuries of struggle, centuries of being underestimated, overlooked, and undervalued. The truth is, the jackpot is just the stage. The real story is the pattern. And that pattern goes all the way back. For generations, black folks have been told, in one way or another, leave the room. Not because they didn't have the talent, the brains, or the heart, but because society had already decided who mattered. From the fields of slavery, where worth was reduced to labor, to the boardrooms today, where resumes are judged not by skills but by names and skin tones, the script has been the same, you don't belong. But here's where it gets interesting. Every time history said, you don't belong, black people answered with, watch me. That's the rhythm. From the cotton fields to classrooms, from civil rights marches to corporate ladders, the story has always been about taking exclusion and flipping it into excellence. They tried to keep us out of sports, now the greatest athletes on the planet are black. They tried to keep us out of music, now our rhythms shape the global sound. They tried to keep us out of politics, then a black man ran the White House for 8 years. Over and over, the rhythm repeats, overlooked, then undeniable. That's why this Powerball moment hits different. On the surface, it's luck. Numbers on a ticket. But symbolically, it's another verse in the same old song. Once again, the world underestimated someone based on appearance, based on status, based on nothing real. They laughed, dismissed, mocked, and then, boom. Destiny shows up in his pocket. That silence in the room when the ticket came out? That's not just about money. That's the sound of centuries of mockery collapsing in an instant. Think about how many times black folks have had to play this same scene. Schools telling kids they won't succeed. Employers passing over qualified candidates. Society laughing, doubting, ridiculing. And yet, time and again, those same people who were told to leave the room end up owning the whole building. This lottery win is just a 21st century remix of that truth. And it's not just about proving people wrong, it's about proving ourselves right. Because deep down, we've always known the truth, we belong. Not because of luck, not because of pity, but because of ability, resilience, and faith. The Powerball ticket didn't create his worth, it revealed it. The jackpot didn't make him somebody, it just forced the world to finally see the somebody he already was. Look, money is temporary. It comes, it goes. But this symbolism? That's permanent. And what this moment symbolizes is power. Power in the face of centuries of being powerless. Power in the face of being silenced, erased, ignored. A black man holding the biggest jackpot in history isn't just a headline, it's a metaphor. It says, you can laugh at me, you can push me out, but when destiny calls my number, you can't stop it. And here's the beauty, this isn't just his story. It's a shared story. It's a reflection of every ancestor who worked fields but dreamed of freedom. Every woman who cleaned houses but prayed her children would one day sit in offices. Every young man who was told he'd never make it past the corner, but somehow made it to the stage, the boardroom, the ballot. This jackpot win is just another echo of that timeless rhythm, underestimated, then undeniable. But here's the twist, we're not done yet. Because being undeniable isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. When history flips and suddenly the person told to leave the room owns the room, the question becomes, what now? Do you just bask in the glow? Or do you use that spotlight to make sure the next generation doesn't have to fight the same battles? That's why this win matters. Not because of the billions. Not because of the headlines. But because of what it symbolizes, the unbreakable rhythm of black resilience. It's a rhythm that's carried us from fields to Fortune 500s, from being excluded to being essential, from silence to song. And this Powerball moment? It's just the latest echo, ringing out loud enough for even the doubters to hear. So, let's be clear. This isn't just a jackpot story. This is a cultural story. A survival story. A reminder that even when the world writes us off, destiny has a way of writing us back in, bolder, louder, and richer than before. And speaking of echoes, let's talk about what his win shouts to every single doubter. They say success is the best revenge. But let's get real, success by itself ain't enough. Because success without silence is just noise. The sweetest revenge? It's not the clapback, not the social media post, not even the smug grin. No, it's the silence that follows when the tables turn. It's standing in the same room where they laughed at you, the same room where they dismissed you, and suddenly watching those same mouths lock shut. That's not just revenge, that's poetry. Poetry written in jackpot ink. Picture the scene. The same people who thought you were nobody are now tripping over themselves to get close. Their laughter? Gone. Their arrogance? Evaporated. Their confidence? Shaken. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to say, I told you so. The silence does it for you. And let me tell you, silence speaks louder than any clapback ever could. See, the world loves to mock the underdog until the underdog wins. It's the oldest script in the book. They laugh, they point, they doubt, and then destiny spins the plot twist. And here's the irony, the louder the mockery, the louder the silence afterward. That's why this win stings them more than any insult could. Because money, success, destiny, it doesn't just change the scoreboard, it flips the entire game. And make no mistake, this was a game changer. Imagine being told you don't belong, that you should leave, that you're invisible, only to reveal that you hold the single most powerful ticket in the country. The biggest jackpot in Powerball history. That kind of reversal isn't just luck, it's cosmic irony. It's the universe saying, oh, you laughed at him? Watch this. And here's the kicker, he didn't even need to gloat. That's what makes it sting even more. The lack of response, the calmness, the refusal to play into their drama, that's what breaks people. Because deep down, they want you to react. They want you to scream, to fight, to prove them right about your temper. But when you just stand tall, silent, and smiling with destiny in your hand, that's when you own the room. That's when mockery turns into regret. Let's call it what it is, poetic justice. For centuries, black folks have been the target of mockery, disrespect, and dismissal. Jokes at our expense. Laws written against us. Doors slammed in our faces. Yet time after time, history shows us rising, succeeding, excelling. And the sweetest part? We don't even need to clap back. Our achievements are the clapback. Our silence is the mic drop. Think about how powerful that is. Success, without spite. Revenge, without venom. Just pure, undeniable proof that the people who laughed at you were wrong. No need for extra words. Just presence. Just power. Just the quiet smile of someone who knows they've shifted the story. And let's be honest, silence hurts more than words ever could. Because words fade. Arguments get forgotten. But silence lingers. It follows them home. It whispers in their ears when they're alone, "You laughed at the wrong one." And the beauty of it? You didn't even have to lift a finger. Destiny did the heavy lifting for you. But let's not miss the deeper point here. This isn't just about rubbing success in anyone's face. It's about showing what happens when resilience meets opportunity. When a lifetime of being underestimated collides with a once-in-a-lifetime win. The jackpot wasn't just money, it was a mirror. A mirror showing society's hypocrisy. A mirror reflecting back the ugly laughter, the dismissals, the doubts, and then shattering it with silence. Because at the end of the day, the sweetest revenge isn't about them, it's about you. It's about standing in your power, not lowering yourself to their level. It's about knowing you don't need to clap back, because your success has already spoken. And in this case, it didn't just whisper, it shouted across the country, across headlines, across history. So, what do we learn here? That the best revenge isn't fire, it's calm. It's not volume, it's presence. It's not fighting back, it's refusing to fight at all because you already won. And that's why this story resonates. Because we all know what it feels like to be laughed at, to be underestimated, to be told we don't belong. And deep down, we all dream of that silent moment, the moment when the laughter stops, and respect finally fills the room. That's not just revenge. That's redemption. That's poetry. Poetry with a jackpot. But here's where it gets even better, the lessons you and I can walk away with. You don't need a Powerball ticket to win. That's the truth. Because the jackpot isn't always money, it's opportunity, it's talent, it's resilience, it's the courage to keep showing up even when people are laughing at you. See, people get it twisted. They think the only win worth celebrating is the billion-dollar check. But here's the reality, every step forward, every small victory, every door you force open when others try to shut it, that's a jackpot too. Think about it. Opportunity itself is wealth. Every time you learn a new skill, that's a deposit. Every time you show up when others expect you to quit, that's interest growing. Every time you plant seeds of patience instead of rushing the process, that's compound growth, baby. Money might buy you headlines, but resilience buys you legacy. Now, let's talk about laughter. Because let's be real, people will laugh. They'll doubt. They'll whisper. They'll mock your dreams, mock your grind, mock the fact that you dare to aim higher than the box they want to keep you in. But here's the kicker, their laughter isn't about you. It's about them. People laugh when they're uncomfortable. They mock what they can't understand. They try to tear down what they secretly wish they had the courage to build. And that's why the real game is patience. Patience to keep going when the applause isn't there. Patience to stack small wins while everyone else chases shortcuts. Patience to know that what you're building might not pay off today, but one day, it will silence every critic in the room. Because success doesn't come overnight, it comes brick by brick, habit by habit, grind by grind. Here's the part people don't want to hear, not everyone's jackpot looks the same. For some, it's billions in the bank. For others, it's getting their family out of debt. For another person, it's opening a small business that feeds their community. For someone else, it's finally being able to walk into a room and not shrink. Different jackpots, same principle, the win is in the persistence, not the prize. And you? You've got jackpots waiting. They may not look like a Powerball ticket, but they're real. That talent you've been sleeping on? Jackpot. That idea scribbled in your notebook that you keep ignoring? Jackpot. That resilience you built from every no, every rejection, every laugh thrown in your face? That's the biggest jackpot of them all. Because money fades, but resilience? That follows you forever. Let me tell you something powerful, the noise never stops. Even when you win, people will still talk. They'll find new ways to laugh, to criticize, to belittle. But here's the difference, you won't hear it the same way anymore. Their laughter will start to sound like background noise. Like static. Like elevator music you tune out while you keep rising to higher floors. And that's why the takeaway is simple, you don't need them to stop laughing. You just need to keep moving. Because success has a funny way of turning the volume down on doubters. The higher you go, the quieter they sound. So what's the move? Keep stacking. Keep showing up. Keep planting seeds. Every small win matters. Don't measure yourself against someone else's scoreboard. Play your own game. Your jackpot might not come in a giant cardboard check with cameras flashing, but it might come in the form of peace, freedom, confidence, or impact. And trust me, those jackpots are priceless. Because at the end of the day, life isn't about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't fold under pressure. It's about walking into rooms where they once told you to leave and realizing you built your own table instead. That's the ultimate jackpot. So here's the challenge, stop waiting for a Powerball moment. Start building your own. Invest in your skills. Double down on your resilience. Protect your patience. And remember, the laughter will always be there, but one day, it won't matter. Because your wins, small or big, will drown it out. And when that day comes, you'll realize something beautiful, you were already rich, long before the world caught on. And now, let's bring it home. They laughed at him. But here's the thing, laughter is cheap. Anyone can laugh. It costs nothing to mock, to point fingers, to dismiss someone because of how they look, where they're from, or what they don't have. But courage? Patience? Destiny? Those are priceless. This Powerball win wasn't just about money. It wasn't about a stack of bills or a shiny bank balance. No, it was about flipping the script in real time. About taking a moment of mockery and transforming it into a masterclass in poetic justice. Imagine the scene, the same people who once rolled their eyes, smirked, and whispered suddenly left speechless. Silence thick in the air, because when truth walks in holding receipts, laughter dies instantly. And that's the eternal lesson here, never count out the one you underestimate. Life has a way of aligning numbers, aligning moments, aligning destinies in ways no one sees coming. And when that alignment happens, the punchline flips. The mocker becomes the humbled, the outsider becomes the headline, and the silence? Oh, that silence is golden. The joke was never on him. The joke was on them, for underestimating destiny. If you felt that punchline, hit that subscribe. Because stories like this, they don't just entertain, they remind us the struggle has rhythm, the comeback has melody, and the ending? That's ours to write. Keep watching, keep rising, and keep proving them wrong.